Dr. Hester Vivier grew up on a tobacco and cattle farm in the eastern part of Zimbabwe. When her family was forced off the farm, her life took a new turn, but she has not forgotten the people in South Africa. She is a family physician, or Southern Africa, I should say. She is a family physician who lives in Canada, and she is part of an organization, co-founder of an organization called Here Africa. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Hester Vivier to Studio 4 to tell us more. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Well, take me back to your tobacco farm in Zimbabwe. What was going on?
I assume you're talking about 2000, like the early 2000s.
Yes.
Well, with the land reform program, more and more of the farms were being expropriated by the government. And my mother, by that time, she was widowed. She was in her mid-70s. And she was still farming by herself. She had a farm manager that was running the farm for her. Mm-hmm. And she'd heard that there was a group that was coming and that were forcing people off their properties. But luckily, just the week before, she contacted the police and said, if we have problems, will you come and help me? And she's had a good relationship with the police all along, and they said they would. So sure enough, one day there was a group that came and they were at the farm gates and saying she must leave immediately. But my mom is just such a calm lady. She invited some of them to come up to the front porch and have tea with her to discuss the issue. But in the meantime, she'd already phoned the police, and she was just able to diffuse the situation. Because she was not aggressive, it didn't escalate the situation. And luckily the police came and the crowd was dispersed. But when they left, the farm workers, they said to her, "Madam, you were so brave. If you had gone and left everything behind now, you would have lost everything." But I think for my mom, that was the last straw, and she decided that it was time to leave the farm.
Okay. But the idea was, when the reforms came in, I'm assuming the idea was willing seller, willing buyer.
Yes.
But that didn't quite work out. Or did it in some cases?
I'm not sure that I think in some cases it did, but a lot of times the farmers weren't willing to sell. They didn't want to sell. They were happy on the farm. For a lot of them, they'd been there a couple of generations, and it was their family farm.
Sure.
So they didn't want to leave. They didn't want to sell.
Right, but the former Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, was once the breadbasket, really, of Africa, or considered the breadbasket of Africa.
That's right.
And now I was reading 78% of the people live in poverty?
That is correct, yes.
Why did you found Here Africa? Or when?
When we were registered as a charity in 2009, but our roots came probably from a couple of years before that. A friend of ours, him and his wife are both from Zimbabwe, and they were sending clothes back to their family and acquaintances in Zimbabwe, going to Value Village and buying clothes and sending it back. And then they were having dinner with a barbecue with the family that's currently our president. And they said, well, why are you buying clothes? We'll give you clothes. I'll collect. Ginny Sawatsky, she's also on the board. She said, well, we'll collect clothes from our friends and family and we'll send it over. So that's how we started, just sending clothes. And then when there was the really bad drought and food shortages around 2008, we started doing food delivery, and it kind of escalated. Then we did food and seed. And at one stage, Ray, who's our current chairman, said, well, we should just form an organization and do this so that people that support us can get tax receipts for it.
Right.
And so the organization has just kind of grown organically from that.
So for the average person in Zimbabwe, tell me about a typical day.
I think for a lot of Zimbabweans, their typical day revolves around getting food for that day.
Water too?
Water.
Clean water?
Clean water, that's a very big one as well. About 80% of people live on less than $2 a day. The unemployment rate is over 60%. So for a lot of people, their daily lives just revolve around getting the food that they need and just getting school fees for their children to be able to send their children to school. Like, they're at the very basic of living, where you're your most basic needs is for food and water.
And no jobs because the tobacco farms are pretty much gone, or what?
In the rural areas, yes, because there's not a lot of farming going on, but also in the cities, I think there's a lot of, because of the dollarization that happened in 2009, a lot of the businesses, their funds that they had was just wiped out.
Right. And by dollarization, I mean the currency there now is the U.S. dollar?
It's the U.S. dollar. The official currency is the U.S. dollar. So people that had Zimbabwean dollars in the bank, they lost all of that. So everybody started back at zero.
Okay. What about education for the kids?
Education, Zimbabwe's always been known that it had a really good education system. Currently, the estimates vary. Probably about 25% of children are not going to school. It's not clear exactly what that number is. But even a lot of them that are going to school, the quality of education that they're getting is not very good. The recent report that came out said that about the pass rate of a grade 7 national exam was around 48%. So a lot of children that are in school are not getting a good quality education.
And the schools are pretty bare-boned.
Yes.
From what I am watching here.
Yes. A lot of them don't have textbooks. The textbook ratio in some schools is upwards of 9 children to 1 textbook. The teachers often can be absent. So they really have, and the teacher-children ratio is very high as well, like around 1 to 40s, 1 to 50 children for every teacher.
And I'm sure many of them don't finish school.
Oh, yes. Yes, a lot of them are not finishing school.
Are going on to higher education.
Oh, yeah, we're not even talking about higher education. Like even doing a grade 7 exam, which is one of the Millennium Development Goals, is primary education. A lot of the children are not even getting a decent primary education.
Right. Are the teachers mostly from Zimbabwe, or are there
Yes.
teachers from around the world who are coming in to help, or how does that work?
The schools that we visited and that we're involved with are all local teachers. I'm sure there are some of the schools that have got teachers coming from outside the country.
HIV/AIDS epidemic.
Yes.
What percentage?
Luckily, because of the recent medications, the percentage does seem to be falling. They think that it peaked at around 23%. It's now probably around 17 or 18% of the people are infected.
Right. And what kind of support are the orphans getting, the children left?
Okay, estimates are that there are about 970,000 of the children are either orphaned or vulnerable, 970,000. So that's about 25%, quarter of the children are affected. There are a few programs available through different agencies and also through the government. And the estimate is about 25% of children that need the care aid is receiving it. So 75% of children that need additional support are not getting it.
Tell me about some of the Here Africa programs, things that you're doing on the ground. The SEED program,
Yes, we're doing in 3 communities we delivered seed and fertilizer, and also some cornmeal, because studies have shown that some people, if they're really hungry, they'll rather eat the seed than plant it. So we give them food to tide them over that first bit until they can get a crop.
Right.
We're also supporting a school that is really in the rural areas. And we also have a sewing program that we're helping some women we're teaching that there's a fountain of hope that teaches them how to sew.
Yes, I saw that. I saw it on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah, and it looked like many of the machines had been donated, obviously.
Yes.
There was an old singer and many different things, but they're teaching the women to do...
well, yeah, teaching them a life skill that they'll be able to support themselves and their family as well.
What about arts and culture? Do you support arts and culture, or do you know what I mean? The women weave something beautiful and you can bring it to North America and sell it. Is there any...
Well, it's interesting you mention that. I've actually started a small business importing arts and crafts from Zimbabwe, because you're absolutely correct. The women, with their time, they're making the most amazing baskets and beaded wire and bead ornaments and bowls, like wooden bowls.
Right.
Just amazing the things
I'm sure,
that
'cause
people make with their time.
they have fabulous skills, and then if you can bring it to market, why
Yes.
not? And bring money in for the family.
Yes.
What about getting money in Zimbabwe if you'd like to start a business? Are they funded in any way? You know, it's kind of a movement in some of the non-government organizations to help people start a business, you know, loan them money, no interest,
Yes.
that kind of thing.
Yes, actually, the name of our organization here, Africa, it really plays on the fact that we want to hear what the needs are and respond to it. And that's the direction that we were taken in December. We met with a group of women, and they say to us, what we really need is somebody to lend us money so that we can start our own business. And that's just in the fledgling stages that we're
Yes.
moving into that, the small, just microcredit. Like microfinance has you know, loans and everything with it. Microcredit is probably what we're just starting with at the moment.
Yes.
And it's really exciting to see where
I'm
that
sure.
will take us.
And some of the people who are loaning the money are getting it back. That's the greatest part.
That's what
you
they
know?
say, that if you loan to women, that they will repay it. Yes.
Well, wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you so much.
And you have a practice as a doctor as well, so you have like a day job?
Yes, I do. But yes, I do.
When
So
are you
it's
going back
pretty
to
busy.
Zimbabwe?
We don't have any plans at the moment,
Okay.
but I'm hoping within the next year or two, yes.
Sure. And people can just write a check to Here Africa, I'm sure, to help you.
Oh, that'd be great. We'll take it any
That'd be
day.
great. Not necessarily clothes, but clothes if needed, but more money to do the work you do.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
thinking.
because the shipping is so expensive. We've kind of focusing more on helping projects
Sure.
over there.
Sure.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Hester Vivier, Here Africa. Coming up, the outspoken and thought-provoking columnist, cultural commentator, and author Russell Smith brings in his new novel, Girl Crazy.